How much money do you need to change your life right now, and what would you use it for? Story 1. $500 would change my life because, honestly, my fridge has been giving student dorm room vibes for weeks now. I'm one bowl of ramen away from learning how to photosynthesize. Story 2. If I had $10,000 right now, it would finally give me and my kid a chance to live with some dignity. We've been stuck in a tiny one-bedroom apartment for years. He sleeps on the couch, and I can tell it's starting to wear on him. With that money, I'd put a down payment on a small house, just 2 bedrooms, nothing crazy, so he could have a space to call his own. It's not about luxury, it's about giving him something better, a place where he can grow up feeling like he matters. Story 3. $2,000 would get me a car that doesn't scream "I might explode" every time I start it. I just want to commute without wondering if today's the day I meet the tow truck driver again. Story 4. All I need is $2,000 to buy a beater car and keep my job. My old car died last week, and public transportation isn't an option out here in the boonies. If I lose this job, I lose everything: my apartment, my savings, and my shot at stability. It's not about wanting something better, it's about survival. With $2,000, I'd have a way to keep going, and sometimes that's all you need. Story 5. $700 would stop the spiral. I missed a week of work because of the flu, and now I'm behind on rent, out of gas, and eating whatever's left in the pantry. Just $700 would catch me up and let me breathe again. It's not much, but right now, it feels like the difference between keeping my life together and watching it fall apart. Story 6. $1,000 would let me fix my teeth and finally smile in photos again. Right now, I look like I'm auditioning for the role of creepy background guy in a horror movie. Story 7. $50,000 would be the end of my financial nightmare. It would wipe out my debt, student loans, credit cards, everything. I could finally start saving for a house instead of throwing every spare dollar at interest payments. I don't want extravagance, I just want to stop feeling like I'm drowning every single month. Story 8. For me, $5,000 isn't just a number, it's hope. It would pay off my medical debt and finally let me think about the future instead of being stuck in the past. That money would mean no more calls from collections, no more sleepless nights, and the chance to start saving for something that actually matters. Story 9. It's hard to explain how much $30,000 would change my life, but let me paint the picture for you. I'm 33 years old, working 2 jobs, one full-time and one part-time, just to keep up with rent, bills, and the mountain of debt I've been dragging around for years. The credit card payments alone are like quicksand. No matter how much I throw at it, the balance barely budges because of those ridiculous interest rates. Then there's my car. It's a 2009 Kia that I've sunk way too much money into because I can't afford anything else. But $30,000? That's freedom. I could pay off my credit cards and have enough left to get a reliable car. Do you know what that would mean? No more juggling payments, no more unexpected breakdowns that blow my budget for the month, and, most importantly, no more sleepless nights wondering if I'll ever get ahead. It's not like I want a luxury lifestyle, I just want to breathe. $30,000 would finally give me that. Story 10. If I had $50, I'd fill up my gas tank and feel like a millionaire for about 3 days, until I remember I still need groceries. Story 11. If someone handed me $200,000 right now, it wouldn't just change my life. It'd finally let me live it. I've spent the last 5 years grinding in a corporate job that pays well, but drains the life out of me. Every morning, I sit in my car for an extra 10 minutes, staring at the office building, wishing I could just turn the key and drive away. It's not that I hate working. I've always dreamed of running my own business, something I could pour my heart into instead of wasting my energy making money for someone else. I've been tinkering with a small side hustle, building custom furniture out of my garage, but it's slow going. Without capital, I can't grow it the way I need to. That $200,000 would change everything. I'd pay off my student loans, finally be free of the $50K I've been chipping away at for years, and use the rest to get my shop off the ground. I already know what equipment I need and where I'd rent the space. I've even got a website half built, but what's the point when I can't afford the materials to take on big orders? The best part wouldn't even be the money itself. It'd be the freedom to build something that's mine. I wouldn't have to worry about hitting someone else's deadlines or kissing up to a boss who doesn't even know my name. I'd get to wake up every day excited to create, knowing I'm working towards something real. And you know what? It wouldn't just change my life. It'd change my family's life too. My wife could finally quit her second job and focus on what she loves, art. My son would grow up seeing his parents chasing their dreams instead of just paying bills. That's what $200,000 would mean to me. Not just freedom, but a future worth waking up for. Story 12. If I had $10,000, I'd finally pay off my credit cards, and then immediately ruin it by buying the world's fanciest coffee maker because priorities. Story 13. If you'd told me a few years ago that $10,000 could mean the difference between hope and despair, I probably would have laughed it off. But now I know better. See, I have a 5-year-old son, and we've been living in a tiny one-bedroom apartment for over 3 years. He doesn't have his own room, his own space, and I see how much it affects him. Every time he pulls out his toys, he looks at me like he's asking for permission. Not because I'm strict, but because there's literally nowhere to play without being in the way. With $10,000, I could put a down payment on a bigger place, somewhere with 2 bedrooms where he could have his own little world. It wouldn't just be about the space, though. It'd be about giving him a sense of normalcy, something I've been working toward since the day he was born. That money wouldn't just change my life. It'd change his life, and that's worth more than anything. Story 14. A lot of people dream about winning millions, but for me, $1,645 would make all the difference right now. I'm a student, working part-time, and juggling everything is like trying to walk a tightrope in a storm. The thing is, I'm so close, just 1 semester away from finishing my degree, but I'm behind on my fees. It's not even a crazy amount, but it's enough to stop me from registering for classes next term. Without it, I'd have to put school on hold, maybe indefinitely, and that scares me more than anything. With $1,645, I'd be able to pay off the balance and finally move forward. No more worrying about emails from the bursar's office or avoiding their phone calls. It's not just money. It's the key to finishing what I started and finally getting out of this cycle of barely scraping by. Story 15. It's hard to explain to someone who's never been there, but $25,000 wouldn't just improve my life, it'd save it. For years, I've been struggling with the fallout of a bad decision I made in my 20s, drinking energy drinks like water while stationed overseas in the military. Back then, I thought I was invincible. I didn't think twice about what all that sugar and acid was doing to my teeth, let alone my health. Fast forward a decade, and I'm living with constant pain, broken teeth, and a smile I'm too ashamed to show. Eating is a chore, and every conversation feels like a game of, how long can I keep my lips closed? It's not just cosmetic either. The pain keeps me up at night, and the infections from untreated cavities make me feel like I'm walking around with a ticking time bomb in my mouth. I've looked into getting it fixed, but dental care in this country is a joke. Even the cheapest options are way out of reach for someone like me, working paycheck to paycheck with no insurance. The VA? Don't even get me started. They've been no help at all. With $25,000, I could finally afford the implants, extractions, and bridges I need. I could smile again without feeling like a monster. I could eat without wincing in pain or worrying about losing another tooth. Most importantly, I could start living again. Right now, I spend most of my free time locked in my room avoiding people because I'm too embarrassed to face them. That kind of isolation eats away at you. It's like a slow erosion of your self-worth. But with that money, I could reclaim my confidence. I could look in the mirror and see a version of myself I'm not ashamed of. That's what $25,000 would mean to me. A second chance at life. Story 16. $2,000. That's all I need to avoid losing my job. My car broke down last week, a transmission issue that'll cost more than the car's even worth to fix. It's not like I can take public transportation. I live in a small town where buses barely exist, and my job is 20 miles away. My boss has been understanding, but there's only so much I can do without reliable transportation. With $2,000, I could buy a decent used car, something that wouldn't leave me stranded on the side of the road every other week. It's not just about the job, though. It's about the domino effect. Without a car, I lose my job. Without my job, I lose my apartment. Without my apartment, well, you get the idea? $2,000 could keep all those dominoes from falling? Story 17. When I say $25,000 would save my life, I mean it literally. I've been struggling with severe depression for years, and a big part of it comes from my teeth, or rather, what's left of them. Years of neglect, bad habits, and no insurance have left me in a position where I can't smile without feeling ashamed. It's not just cosmetic. The pain is constant, and eating is a daily struggle. The worst part is how it's affected my confidence. I barely leave my house unless I have to, and even then, I keep my head down, hoping no one notices. With $25,000, I could get the dental work I desperately need. Implants, extractions, everything. I could finally look in the mirror and not feel disgusted. It's not just about teeth, it's about reclaiming a part of myself I lost a long time ago. Story 18. $20,000 would feel like a miracle. That's all it would take to pay off my credit card debt and finally break out of the paycheck-to-paycheck cycle. Right now, every dime I earn is already spoken for before it even hits my account. With that weight gone, I could actually save for the first time in years, maybe even take a weekend off without panicking about the bills. It's not about living lavishly, it's about living without constant anxiety. Story 19. I never realized how much a mere $5,000 could change the trajectory of my life until I sat down to do the math. I've been drowning in medical debt since my mom's surgery last year. Insurance covered most of it, but not all, and the remaining balance has been a weight I can't shake off. Every month I make the minimum payments, but the interest keeps the total stubbornly high. That debt has been the barrier to everything. Getting a better apartment, saving for emergencies, even just feeling like I'm making progress. If I had $5,000, I could wipe it out entirely. No more late-night anxiety over how I'll cover an unexpected expense. No more calls from collections agencies reminding me of my failure. I could finally start saving, maybe even take my mom out for a dinner she deserves for everything she's done for me. It wouldn't just change my finances, it'd change my entire outlook. Story 20. When I think about how $100,000 could change my life, it's not just about paying off debts or buying a nice car. It's about freedom. I've been dreaming of starting my own business for years, but every time I come close, reality pulls me back. My well-paying job eats up all my time, and I can't afford to take the risk of leaving it. With $100,000, I could finally take that leap. I'd pay off my student loans and use the rest to get my woodworking shop up and running. I already have a client base lined up. I just don't have the means to make it happen. I imagine waking up in the morning, knowing I'm working for myself, creating beautiful pieces with my hands, instead of sitting in a cubicle staring at spreadsheets. It's not just money, it's the ability to chase a dream I've had since I was a kid. Story 21. $5,000 would be the difference between surviving and moving forward. My medical bills have been piling up for years, and I can barely make the minimum payments. That money would wipe out what I owe and finally give me a chance to save for emergencies instead of constantly falling behind. It's not a life of luxury I want, it's just a life with less stress. Story 22. The funny thing is, when I hear people talk about needing millions to change their lives, I can't relate. For me, $700 would do it. That's the amount I need to cover rent, buy groceries, and fill up my gas tank for the month. I missed a week of work last month because I had the flu, and now I'm scrambling to make ends meet. I've been living on ramen and peanut butter sandwiches, rationing gas so I only drive to work and back. My apartment is freezing because I can't afford to turn on the heat, and my landlord's already warned me about late payments. With $700, I could catch up on rent and not have to choose between eating and staying warm. It's not a lot, but right now it feels like the difference between surviving and completely falling apart. Story 23. You want to know what $50,000 would do for me? It would give me something I haven't had in years: peace of mind. I've been juggling debt since my early 20s. Student loans, a car loan, and of course credit card debt that just kept piling up when life threw curveball after curveball. First it was a hospital bill after a nasty fall, then my car breaking down twice in 1 year, and finally losing my job during the pandemic. I'm not lazy. I've worked my ass off, taken every extra shift, and skipped vacations for years. But no matter how hard I try, I can't seem to dig out of this hole. Every paycheck is already spent before it hits my account, and the stress is relentless. With $50,000, I'd pay off everything: student loans, car loan, credit cards, all of it. For the first time in my adult life, I could actually keep the money I earn instead of watching it disappear the second it lands. I wouldn't have to check my account balance before buying groceries. I wouldn't have to panic every time an unknown number calls, wondering if it's a debt collector. I could finally start saving for the future instead of playing catch-up with the past. And you know what the craziest part is? That money wouldn't just change my financial situation, it'd change me. I'd be less stressed, less irritable, and more present for the people in my life. I'd have the mental bandwidth to think about more than just survival. I'd finally get to breathe, and that, more than anything, is what I need. Story 24. I've always been the type to take care of everyone else first, but now it's my mom who needs help, and it's breaking me that I can't do more. She's 66, a cancer survivor, and raising my 2 nephews because their parents couldn't step up. Her house is falling apart around her. Leaks in the roof, electrical issues, and plumbing that's on its last leg. I've been sending her what I can, but it's barely a drop in the bucket. If I had $150,000, I'd pay off my student loans and buy her a house where she and the boys could feel safe. Somewhere with no broken pipes, no leaks, and no stress about what will fall apart next. She's spent her whole life giving to others, and I just want to give her some peace. That kind of money wouldn't just fix her house, it'd fix her spirit. Story 25. It's wild how $10,000 could completely turn my life around. My kid and I share a 1-bedroom apartment, and he's been sleeping in the living room for years. With $10,000, I could move us into a place with just 1 more bedroom. That's it. Just 1 more room so he can feel like he has a space of his own. It's not a big dream, but it's mine, and I'd do anything to make it happen. Story 26. I know $700 doesn't sound like life-changing money to most people, but right now, it would mean the world to me. I missed a week of work last month because of the flu, and that was enough to throw my entire budget out of whack. I live paycheck to paycheck, so missing even a single day of work can feel like a disaster. Now I'm behind on rent, my car is running on fumes because I can't afford to fill the tank, and my cupboards are almost empty. I've been rationing food like I'm in a survival movie: canned soup one day, ramen the next. The landlord has already sent a warning notice, and I know that if I don't come up with the money soon, I'm at risk of losing my apartment. With $700, I could pay the rent, fill up my car, and buy groceries for the month. It's not a lot, but it would stop the downward spiral I feel like I'm in. It would give me the breathing room to catch up and not feel like I'm 1 bad day away from losing everything. It's funny how such a relatively small amount of money can have such a huge impact, but when you're this close to the edge, even $700 can feel like a lifeline. Story 27. $50,000 might not seem like much to some people, but to me it's everything. It would clear my debt, student loans, credit cards, and my car, and give me a clean slate. I've been stuck in this loop of working overtime just to stay afloat, and I'm exhausted. That money would mean freedom. I could start saving for a house, maybe even take a trip for the first time in years. Story 28. I used to think $10,000 wouldn't be enough to make a real difference, but right now, it feels like everything. My kid and I live in a tiny apartment where we can hear every argument from our neighbors and every footstep from upstairs. He's at that age where he needs his own room, a space where he can be a kid without constantly feeling cramped. $10,000 would get us a bigger place, maybe even a small house, somewhere we could actually build a life instead of just existing. I can't tell you what it would mean to see him run around a backyard for the first time, or to decorate his own room the way he wants. That money wouldn't just buy us a new address. It'd give us a fresh start, something that feels impossible most days. Story 29. I've always been someone who takes care of their own problems, but when it comes to my parents, it's a whole different story. My mom and dad have worked hard their entire lives, but now that they're in their late 60s, everything seems to be falling apart, including their house. They live in this old place that's barely holding together. The roof leaks every time it rains, the plumbing is a nightmare, and the heating barely works in the winter. They'd never say it out loud, but I know it's getting harder for them to stay there. My dad's arthritis makes it almost impossible for him to fix things himself anymore, and my mom is too proud to ask for help. If I had $150,000, I'd buy them a new house. Nothing fancy, just something safe and warm where they wouldn't have to worry about things breaking down every other week. I'd cover the down payment, set up manageable monthly payments for them, and maybe even hire someone to help them pack and move. They've spent their whole lives sacrificing for me and my siblings, and now it's their turn to be taken care of. That money wouldn't just change their lives, it'd change mine too. I wouldn't have to lie awake at night worrying about whether they're okay. I wouldn't have to wonder if the next phone call from my mom is going to be about another broken pipe or a dangerous electrical issue. It'd give all of us a sense of security we haven't had in years, and I can't imagine anything more valuable than that. Story 30. $1,645 would fix everything I'm stressing over right now. It's the exact amount I need to pay off my school fees and finally register for next semester. I'm so close to finishing my degree, but this one bill is standing in the way. That money wouldn't just cover a debt, it'd open the door to the future I've been working so hard for.